Well, we're getting out here on Pewaukee Lake this morning. It's before 6 a.m., about 5:50. And we made our first stop here. Right in the front here you can see working offshore is our winners from last year's tournament on Pewaukee Lake with 22 pounds of largemouth. That's Dale and Chris. And you'll see in the background over here are our winners from about a month ago out here on Pewaukee Lake. That's TJ Darst and Dan Owens. These guys had 22 pounds of smallies. So that's the awesome part of Pewaukee Lake. You can get them big, largies or smallies. We're going to be out here today videotaping and see which one's going to take the crown today. Looks like TJ and Dan here hooked up. These guys are our winners from the last tournament. They had over 22 pounds worth of smallies. One of them was over 6. Let's see if this is one that's over 6. Looks like they're gonna weigh it. Must be their first keeper of the day. It's about 6 a.m. We just took off about a half hour ago. Sam's Dan's hooking up with a fish. Looks like a pretty good one. Oh, TJ and Dan are starting to get on him now.
See how farther than the line you're working. Yeah. You guys get any yet?
Another solid fish for Dan Owens, TJ Darst. I heard Justin and Charles, they just pulled in here and checked with TJ and Dan to make sure it was okay that they moved in and fished a waypoint they had, which is exactly what you want to do in this situation when you're going to be fishing near someone else. And Dan told them to go ahead, they weren't going to cut them off or anything, and Dan stuck a fish. I think this is the first time we're catching up with Walter and Mark this year. These guys unfortunately didn't quite find the quality of fish they needed, but they did hook up a few times throughout the day. Were you not finding them where you found them in July? was our second stop on Pewaukee Lake this year, and anglers were finding the fish had moved quite a bit in the past month. A lot more largemouth being caught in this August tournament than previous in July, where it's mostly smallies. Here's Kurt and Kevin. These guys are flipping real thick weeds. These guys ended up finishing third on the day with about 19.5 pounds.
Not gonna make the cut.
You can see how those weeds are matted up where they're fishing. Unfortunately, we didn't catch up to them right at the right time. We hit them early in the morning, and they weren't hooking up quite as frequently. I guess after we left, they moved to another area where they really got into them good.
Kurt and Kevin flipping one.
There's Chris and Tim checking out if they got a keeper fish here or not. So in second place on the day, doing the same thing Kurt and Kevin were doing. They were flipping heavy weeds and everything. This right here is a picture of their 6.88 pound largie. These guys took second, Jay and Alex. They had about 20.5 pounds, just under a pound of first place, but they took second. Nice check home, plus big bass check. And then our first place team, Corey and Travis, these guys had a little over 21 pounds, 4 smallies and 1 largemouth. These guys got them fishing a drop shot. Unfortunately, we didn't catch up with these guys either. We seem to keep missing the first and second place teams every tournament, but we'll someday come across them. Here's our final results right here. Take a look. You can go check out andrewsmithfishing.com for the tournament story, and double catch lures for some lures that'll work for you to catch those monster bass.